Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as they do on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
And my brother Mike O'Connor.
No.
And so we're back. It's been 2 weeks since we last recorded, so we missed, I guess, just the last game, the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, where the Celtics took out the Heat. And then now there's been 2 games, the NBA Finals, which is now split at 1 apiece after yesterday's game. So we've had a pretty eventful last 2 weeks. Obviously, Memorial Day threw us off, so we didn't record last week, but we're back, baby, and we have some good hoops. So before we get into a lot of the finals, I do just want to touch on a few minor things that came up. Lakers hired a head coach. Seems like that's a pretty strange hire. I mean, I would have figured they would have gone more high profile, but they took a Bucks assistant, Darvin Ham, who has gotten glowing reviews from Giannis. So maybe there's something there to turn that around. I don't know. And then I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on that, but the other coaching vacancy is the one in Utah, Quinn Snyder stepping down as head coach. So who knows what's going to happen there? It seems like there's a lot of turmoil on that front. But before we get into some actual basketball, I don't know if you guys have any comments there.
I think the trend nowadays is kind of hire a player coach. You see it in a lot of places, like the Nets hiring Steve Nash and the Mavericks hiring Jason Kidd, who's obviously been a head coach before. But Pelicans, the Suns did it, right? And so I just think the idea of hiring a head coach and then filling out your assistant coaching staff is more of like, we just have basketball minds, guys who know the game, who've been around the game, and can talk to our players. And I think the praise that Giannis has given Coach Ham is the fact that you can literally say anything you want to him. He doesn't get upset. He's always happy to have a dialogue with you. And I think that's really great because there are guys on that Laker roster, LeBron James, who want to have these types of conversations with their coaches. So,
yeah, I mean, and again, I think it's hard to really, it's almost like comparing apples and oranges, but the last assistant or head coach that I've seen Giannis have these glowing reviews for are Jason Kidd, who just took a team to the Western Conference Finals. Now Darvin Ham. He's obviously said good things about Budenholzer, considering they won a championship, but all of them have shown success. And so having that endorsement seems pretty significant. And yeah, the Lakers roster has issues, and it seems like that front office is a mess. But like, I at least think that's like a good candidate to lead. I never really liked Frank Vogel, and sure, they won that championship, but like people are going to say what they're going to say about that, including myself. So I don't know. I think
Frank Vogel's a good coach.
But like, I think again, it was one of those teams that you probably could have put anyone to coach and they would have won that championship in the bubble.
Sure.
That Lakers team was firing on all cylinders. And I don't know if there was anything like really revolutionary that he did with that team, but that's me being more
I think he
critical.
just brings a mindset, the defensive mindset, especially when you have a lot of older vets. I think he just brought an edge to the game, and obviously a lot of guys on the floor set that tone. I think he just did a good job of rallying like their center position. I didn't think that the people they had at big was all that great between JaVale and Dwight. And I think Frank Vogel just made it easy for them to be productive.
It's definitely fair. I mean, I think the only issue that you're going to run into now if you're the Lakers is, all right, we got rid of our scapegoat in Frank Vogel, which to your point, maybe it wasn't his fault. Probably wasn't his fault. It was realistically roster construction and just general injuries, whatever. Is Darvin Ham just being set up to fail right now? Like, I can't imagine a worse job to go into right now out of any of the head coaching vacancies that are going to pop up this offseason. That one seems like just sure, if you do well, like, oh, great. Like, you turn the Lakers around, but then it's like, oh, you had all this talent, whatever.
Worst comes to worst,
I don't know. I just feel like
he becomes an assistant coach somewhere else in the next couple of seasons.
I guess. But this probably isn't where you want your inaugural head coaching year to be.
Yeah, maybe. I think the West in general is just going to get tougher. I'm not so sure about the Suns, actually. They're kind of a question mark. The Grizzlies are going to get better. The Mavericks are going to be the same or better. Jazz are kind of a question mark. Nuggets are going to get better. Timberwolves are going to get better. Pelicans are going to get better. Clippers are going to get better. You never know what the Spurs might do. Kings might be decent with all these moves they're trying to make. Maybe they'll move the 4th pick. And obviously you have the Warriors who are in the finals right now. So,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I also think in
Lakers
that same vein,
questionable.
I think in that same vein, like, and not just to only look at the Lakers, I think looking at the Jazz and what they're about to do. I don't think it was Quinn Snyder's fault. Sure, maybe you could make the case that, all right, he's shown that he can get you regular season wins. But him stepping away now, like, what is the answer there? I think that's
They
another
didn't
one where it's the
fire him,
roster.
though. I think Quinn Snyder stepped
He
down,
did.
and I think more the issue in Utah is culture and atmosphere rather than talent and coaching. They have a good roster. They have a good coach. The problem was the chemistry between their top players, and even then, Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert is your top player. I'm not so confident that either of those players are the best player on a championship team, right? When you think about the guys who are going to win you championships, you think about like Jason Tatum's and LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard's, right? And neither of those guys kind of have that build or game. So Giannis, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's definitely true. But at the end of the day, now you're going from a pretty renowned coach. I mean, he was there for 8 years, and they had glowing success while he was there.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard to meet or top that same expectation because you're going to see changes to this roster. Obviously, it seems like that's inevitable this offseason. Something's going to change there. It's a question of how drastic, but even then, are you going to be able to meet the same level of success where you've been a top 4 seed ish pretty much the last, how long, 6 years? How long have they been in this top conversation, in this upper echelon of teams?
If I'm the Utah Jazz, it's time to look towards a rebuild. I think you sent a tweet today that they're going to be aggressive on the trade market.
Yep.
They should be big sellers. They should try and unload as many vets as they possibly can and look towards the future.
Because it sounds like they're firm no on Mitchell, though. It sounds like they're
I think they still think they're in conversation, especially if they're keeping Donovan Mitchell. I think
if they keep Donovan Mitchell, that's one thing. But you pay Rudy Gobert because you understand you're a small franchise and you can't attract free agents. So here you are trying to trade for people and trying to make difference on your rosters. You kind of fall into like the Portland Trailblazers situation.
Right.
Why not just say, screw it, dump everything, start selling as many vets as you can and just, you'll try again in a couple of years, especially now that you're going to have a new coach. So
yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said about taking on some bad contracts, stockpiling some assets, or if you're going to move Gobert, and you're going to start doing that, we're going to start getting picks and whatever, Mitchell's going to ask out, and it's going to happen. So then you're going to be forced to do that rebuild. So if you're going to move one first, I think you really have no choice but to move Mitchell first. If you're going to start blowing things up and not make yourself competitive, if you move Gobert to do a win now move, fine. You're going to keep Mitchell, and it's going to be okay. If you move Gobert for picks and other assets like that, and you're like, our team's not going to be competitive, he's out. He's going to say, I want out of here. There's already so much writing on the wall that he wants out.
Mitchell already wants out.
But then you lose a little leverage as the team trading him. If you know the player wants out, he's going to pick the teams he wants to go to.
So then trade Mitchell first.
But I think that how do you reach that decision as an organization right now? When you have a player as good as Donovan Mitchell, you're a small market. It's hard to attract talent.
Easy for me to get rid of him. It would be so easy. I'm not big on Donovan Mitchell. That just might be my process. I understand they hired Dwayne Wade, who may or may not influence decisions being made in that organization. And I'm pretty sure Dwayne Wade is a fan of Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm sure the front office is a fan of Donovan Mitchell as well. I'm sure that, drafting a guy and, putting a lot of hopes into him, obviously they're a big fan of him. For me, I'd look at him and I'd be like, look, like, it was fun. You're in your prime. We want you to be successful, right? We're your friend here. We would love to have a positive relationship with you, even if you're not on our team. Trade him. Easy.
But you're telling me, I'm just thinking about the trades that are even available, like a hero package with picks. I don't think that.
Yeah, a tank with hero as your best player.
And Gobert, I just think that's not that great. I don't see. They're in a weird position because I think Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are strange, where I don't think any team is like willing to sell the farm for either of them. Like I would
to Luke's point. They're not in that build where they can be the best player on a championship team. They're the second option or third. And
Gobert has to be your third.
Yeah, exactly.
I would happily take a package of Mitchell, Robinson. I would happily take a package of Hero, Robinson, or why can't
Duncan
I think
Robinson? That package.
Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and picks. I would 100% take that package if I was the Jazz and just tank.
That's tough. I feel like that's hard to sell a fan base.
I would want like a franchise-altering pick.
I am going to point another thing out.
At some point, the Miami Heat picks might be, the Miami Heat are trying to go all in for a win now. in 5 to 10 years, are the Miami Heat picks going to be good? Even in the next
10 years, that's miserable. Like, you can't even.
You take a 2029 first round pick. What does that come out to? And even then, you're stockpiling assets because let's say you get lucky with the second overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft and you draft the next LeBron James. You just have more assets. It's like, you want to make a move for a second star? You have that pick.
Here's the issue. You also have to factor in the front office. And Danny Ainge is new now in Utah. He has all the complaints in the past from Celtics fans who are like, he never pulls trig on trades. He doesn't do it. Obviously, he fleeced the Nets in that one. But like beyond that, he really always was like, we're going to do something, and then backed off at the last minute. I could see him getting cold feet with this and just like essentially running it back.
They kind of fleeced the Sixers too when they traded back from 1 to 3 and drafted Tatum instead of Fultz. They fleeced them there too.
Right.
It's not that Ainge doesn't make moves. Maybe in the last couple of years when they really wanted to compete with Tatum and Brown, but you kind of see it now. Like you needed Tatum to take another step. You see him playing Golden State. Tatum hasn't looked great.
We're gonna get into
maybe
that.
It's not the Celtics.
I feel a little vindicated. Yeah,
it's not looked great. It's like yesterday was.
Yeah, I mean. Well, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about the finals, but
I think when it really comes down to this Quinn Snyder position and him leaving, Donovan Mitchell being unhappy, as a small market, you don't have the luxury of sitting and waiting and hoping for the best. You really, really don't. You got to make a quick decision. You have to make it now. You have to pick a direction. Are you going to try and compete, or are you going to, And if you are trying to compete, again, I just mentioned that the West is going to get better. Are you better than the Clippers? Are you better than the Lakers? Are you better than the Nuggets? Are you better than the Grizzlies? Are you better than the Warriors? And the fact that I can list 5 teams right there probably means that it's not time to compete.
And you didn't even mention the Suns.
Right.
They were the best team in the NBA this year, though.
Aging Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton's questionable.
Suns might be setting, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think Devin Booker's time in Phoenix might be up.
Now, let me ask you something just about the Jazz before we totally pivot. Do you give Mitchell input in the coaching decision? Has he earned that right at this point to be like, I think we should go this direction, you guys should hire him?
If I decide that I want to compete with Mitchell as my best player, 100%.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think that's the next thing is immediately when it was Quinn Snyder is out, the first thing you see from Woj is like Mitchell's uneasy, Mitchell's this. He's putting that out there now as like, you guys better think of me when you make this decision or else I'm getting out of here. So they're kind of stuck here where they either really need to prioritize him or just be like, it's over, we're done, and we're moving on. But it's going to happen, and it's going to happen very soon. It's going to happen before the draft. They're going to have to make that decision. Yeah. They have to, because you should hire a head coach before the draft because he should evaluate the players in the draft. Like, you have all this coming up. I don't know. I just think there's going to be there is like a very clear, ticking time bomb now on the Utah Jazz. They have to make a decision in a month. It's going to happen in June.
Don't get stuck like the Portland Trailblazers did. They tried building around CJ and Dame. And in my opinion, Dame in his prime was better than Donovan Mitchell in his prime.
I'd agree with that.
It didn't work out. It didn't work out for the Blazers. They've wasted most of Dame's career in Portland.
True? You think CJ in his prime is better than Donovan Mitchell?
Dame.
No. Dame.
Oh, yeah. I think you said McCollum.
Also, I do want to point out, I feel like Donovan Mitchell isn't in his prime yet. I feel like we're still early on that. He's how old?
How old is he?
Donovan Mitchell
25?
is
25.
Yeah.
He's the same year as me.
But so that's my point.
And I
guess a combo guard, unless he's playing point guard for me, and I don't want him on my roster.
Yeah.
And I'm not confident that he's a first team playmaker, first option playmaker.
But
he's not a starting point guard.
He's in that Devin Booker category.
Devin Booker's
I'd rather have Booker than Mitchell.
I would not even waste a second. I'd pick Devin Booker over him.
Mm-hmm. Fine, I agree. I think Booker is a better player, but I'm saying they're both in that same category. The same indictment we had on the Suns when they lost to the Mavericks about how he can't create for others and he needs to take that next step. That's kind of how Mitchell gets better. He's proven he can score. He's not terrible on the defensive end. Actually, that was a strength for him coming into the draft. And sure, he hasn't matured defensively, but he's not a negative defensively. So it is kind of that same mold where you need to see that leadership, facilitator development.
I could easily attack Donovan Mitchell with like a Luka Doncic. would be too easy. I could go at Donovan Mitchell on defense, and I could make him a negative if I really wanted to.
But I mean, Luka can do that to most defenders.
I was about to make a dumb comparison, but like because it's different, it's Steph. But Steph is tiny and can't really defend, and they have to really hide him because opposing teams can really get exposed or expose him. Is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And he makes up for it by the scheme. Like they do a good job of hiding him on defense, and then he can shoot. He's the best shooter of all time. So I guess that's.
I think the difference is the roster. When you think about how they make up for Steph, it comes through other perimeter defenders like Clay, Draymond, Andrew Wiggins.
But don't the Jazz, wouldn't you say, like Royce O'Neal, Bogdanovich is pretty good. Like he's okay.
Not the same as Draymond.
They were getting crushed on the perimeter.
Bear's always a defensive player of the year. Like
the problem is he's an
anchor, not a perimeter defender.
So the second you get switches and things like that, which I mean that's been the problem in the playoffs for them, is their perimeter defenders aren't strong enough. Then they get switches to get Gobert out of the paint, and then it's just the other teams have a field day. And so it is a lot
teams
of
teams expose the fact that Gobert can't step out. He doesn't have mobility. And so it's like we're blowing past Mitchell, we're blowing past Conley. Now Gobert has to step up and help because we know that's his job. And then, look, there's Nick Batum in the corner. There's Terrence Mann in the corner, right? They take advantage of that. So
now, in that same vein, I know we're obviously thinking about just the Jazz specifically, but let's look at Quinn Snyder. Where's he going? What's his plan? I know he technically still has a year left on his contract with the Jazz, so they could block him from signing a contract anywhere and coaching next season. I doubt they'd do that if they agreed to part ways and whatever. I don't think they'd block him unless he went to like a real like rival competitor, that sort of thing. So
if he wants to be a head coach, it'll have to be in the Eastern Conference. But I think more realistically, he's going to end up taking an assistant coaching job behind, someone like a Steve Nash or Chauncey Billups.
You think?
And if the Jazz really want to block that, I just think that's the right move. I don't like. There's no. He's too late. He could do 100% do the Spurs, especially with Pop
done.
Yeah, so the Spurs are looking forward to it. He's going to take an assistant coaching job somewhere where he can kind of grow into it, either then assume the head coaching role or take the assistant coaching job just so he can stay around the league next year, coaching carousel, things like that. So I think he's too late in the process where a lot of these teams looking for head coaches like the Hornets or they're moving on to their final interviews.
Right.
It's just too late in the game for him. So he's just going to be on someone's staff for a year. And
I also think it's worth waiting. I don't think any of the remaining vacancies are really worth it. So barring some sort of change now, like some weird firing that happens later on, I don't think there's anywhere you'd really want to go right now. And especially now that the Hornets were intriguing, but I mean, it sounds like it's going to be Atkinson or D'Antoni, realistically.
I like both of them, but I think it would be so funny to have D'Antoni back for like some nuclear Hornets stuff.
With LaMelo, it would be fun.
I'd be so down for D'Antoni and Charlotte.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Miles Bridges. They're just running gun. Oh. They got a good roster for it.
I would call them almost like an Eastern Conference Memphis. Memphis was better, I think, but like they're fun.
They need a center, but yeah.
Trade Gordon Hayward and some other assets for Rudy Gobert.
I think it makes sense. I think it totally makes sense. All right. Now that we've gone over a lot of the coaching stuff and I don't know, some more of the off-season things that aren't as pertinent. Let's talk NBA Finals. Want to get into this?
Yes.
Let's start with game one.
Holy
crap, Boston.
It was a Thursday? Oh, okay.
It was Thursday,
I had my own game Thursday night at 8:00. So I left at halftime. So I watched the first half. I was like, wow, this is such a great game.
Yeah.
Got to my game, checked the score. I was like, oh, wow, Warriors are killing them. Played my game. After the game, talking to my friend, I was like, hey, Warriors win? And they're like, no, Boston crushed them.
Yeah. It was wild. And especially because, I mean, the Warriors came out in that third quarter and did what the Warriors do in third quarters. And so I was like, okay, this thing feels over. I mean, they outscored Boston 38-24 in that third quarter. And it just felt over. It really did. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Celtics just don't miss. They literally did not miss a shot. They were like 7 of 7 from three, I think, before they missed a 3-pointer in the fourth quarter. At one point, I think it was the Celtics had made 14 shots. The Warriors had attempted 12. It was just an absolute slaughter in that fourth quarter, which is why they came back and won by 12. I mean, they outscored them
Celtics
40 to
7
16.
shots in the fourth.
Crazy. The only thing, and yes, that was an incredible quarter for the Celtics. So I will absolutely give them that. A couple takeaways from that game one. Other than that, Al Horford went off. They really weren't missing. Fine. The Warriors were in control of that game from start to finish until that fourth quarter. They truly, even when it was close in the first and second quarter, the Warriors were in the driver's seat. But the Warriors were in the driver's seat. They were pushing pace. They were pushing tempo. They were doing pretty much what they wanted. And the Celtics, they were scoring here or there, and the Warriors made a couple mistakes. But it pretty much felt like it was the Warriors' game.
So you think it comes to, sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, what's your thought?
I just feel like the essential thing that hasn't really happened yet, and that's why it was such a weird game one. And granted, he had 13 assists, so he found another way to be impactful. But Jason Tatum's been really not good. And
that was my next point.
And
his shooting's been terrible.
I think that's why they're down 12 going into the fourth quarter, and I turned off the TV. And that's why they got blown out yesterday. And I think everyone else, Marcus Smart maybe needs to I think it's hard to guard Steph. So I'm not like Marcus Smart has a tough enough job. They all do. But
that's the other thing. Steph Curry had that crazy first quarter in the first game where he put up 21 points and really was not missing threes. But that was also on Boston. Like, they're playing drop coverage. Like, it was just, have you not scouted Steph Curry for the last 6 years? What have you been doing?
The other frustrating thing, and I'm a little all over the place, but I think Boston pound for pound is better. I think they're a better built team. I think they have more versatility personally. I think if you stack up each player against each other, the only place where someone's better on the Warriors is Steph. I think everyone else starting five is better than the Warriors starting five.
Sure, you could make that case. I think it's closer. I don't think it's like as much of like the Celtics are better, but I think you could definitely make the case if you go up and down like that.
They're deeper.
But there's something to be said about the Warriors have been playing together for so long. They have the system that clearly works. They all know where they're going to be. They've done it in the finals before, with the exception of a few key now parts. But, generally it's the same thing that they've had success with. Whereas the Celtics, this is their first time in the championship. They're young. No one on that team has finals experience, not a single person. So you look at that, and that's what I'm like, the Warriors clearly are controlling these games. You felt it every time where they're getting to their spots. They're getting what they want. And sure, Boston's keeping up. Yeah, exactly. And Boston is
game two,
generally
it was
able
Warriors
to
the whole way.
Right. And that's the thing. I don't know how you can flip that script, how Boston can get them out of their comfort zone where they are then taking care of business. It happened in that fourth quarter, but it was only because they weren't missing. It's not like they were doing anything where I felt like the Warriors were in like disarray. Boston was just playing out of their minds. And so you have to now scheme up a way to shift that so that you're controlling and playing to your strengths and not necessarily just running and gunning like the Warriors want you to. And so
it starts with Tatum making his mid-range shots.
Yes.
Game two, he was 6 for 9 from three.
Yeah. He had a better game.
Shot poorly. He was 8 of 19. So he took 10 shots from inside the 3-point line and he hit 2 of them.
Right. Terrible.
Which means he either needs to get to the rim and draw fouls or he needs to hit his mid-range jump shots.
He did attempt 8 free throws, which isn't bad. That shows he's at least trying. But yeah, you're right. But 2 for 10 inside the arc is bad.
He has to find his matchups. I think when I was watching game two, they'd get a switch. It would be like Curry on Tatum. And then Tatum would just settle for a 14-foot jump shot when he should be taking Curry to the rim and trying to score a draw foul. Right. So,
and my last observation before I have to drop off, but I think it's so interesting. Besides the Toronto championship, maybe I'm wrong, this is the first non-LeBron
year.
Normally,
last year,
last year,
the non-LeBron finals against the Warriors are playing in their first finals realistically without LeBron. The Toronto one, Clay was injured, everyone was injured.
Durant got hurt. Yeah,
this one feels like a full-strength Warriors team going against a team that doesn't have LeBron, and that's when Matthew's talking about you need to come up with a scheme. Even watching the Cavs Warriors finals, the scheme was they have LeBron. So this is a Boston Celtics team that needs to actually figure out how to work as a team and get this. LeBron heroed them They were good, but
yes,
all it was a star lunging them over this Warriors team. This is like a team that has to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
The Cavs figured it out, but that had a lot to do with the fact that LeBron changed that series.
Right, and that's why we're waiting on Tatum to take that jump and to figure it out.
I saw something interesting. 49% of the shots that have been taken in the 2 games have been threes. Half of the shots are threes. And Steve Kerr even said it in one of his press conferences. The NBA is in a really volatile place. Like, we're seeing blowouts every once in a while, almost every other game, and it hinges on who hits their threes or not. And I think that's what happened yesterday. I think Tatum will come into his own, but I think something really weird about this playoffs in particular, almost every other Celtics game has been a blowout either way. The Heat series, it was either a blowout Celtics or blowout Heat, and it had to do with who hit their threes. Yeah. I think if the Celtics hit their threes like they did in the fourth quarter of game 1, they're going to be fine. If I had to guess, they're going to split in Boston, which is awesome as a consumer. But but also as a consumer, I'd like to see better games. Like, it just sucked that yesterday I was actually thinking about looking to watch something else.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, Boston
I think the Warriors are going to go up
2-1.
Boston, I think the series will go 6 or 7. Warriors win. I think the Warriors are going to take the first one in Boston. Celtics will bounce back, tied at 2-2. And if they win game 5, I think it'll go 7. If they don't win game 5, it'll go 6.
It's interesting. I think Boston's going to win. But anyway,
that's the Warriors. But yeah.
I have to drop. But that's my 2 cents. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. All righty.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
See you.
Later, Mike.
But all right. So Luke, now that he's gone, let's dive into this.
Okay, so
I want to start with game 1. So I wanted to start with Tatum specifically in game 1. He was missing his shots. Like, he was bad. He was 3 for 17 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Bad. That is a bad game. But the difference is he had 13 assists.
It's nice that he passed it. Right. But
he had 13 assists. It did not happen in game 2. It didn't.
But this is the problem. When Mike made the point about LeBron and how LeBron just kind of carried the Cavs past the Warriors. And it wasn't because LeBron either scored that night or had a whole bunch of assists. It was the fact that LeBron put in 30 to 40 points. Yep. And by the way, he also 12 rebounds and he also had 10 assists. Right. And he played stellar defense, right? And that's what you need to see from Tatum. And I think some of what the Celtics are trying to do is trying to find the right switches. They have Tatum guarding like Draymond a lot of the time because they know Draymond's going to come set a screen or they're going to run around him and do something. So they want Tatum on Draymond so he can pick up whoever's running in action.
Right.
Which is interesting, but I really think that they need to figure out how to get Tatum going in all aspects offensively.
I agree with that. I mean, I think, again, though, to the Warriors' credit, they're forcing Tatum to take shots he's not comfortable taking. Like, it's not like he's getting to the rim as hard as he normally does.
All shots should be comfortable for Tatum at this point. That would be the next leap for him. He wears all these like Kobe shirts and Jordan shirts.
Oh my God, I know. It's getting weird.
And Kobe could score from anywhere. There was no place on the court that you could push Kobe that Kobe was uncomfortable. And Jordan was a master at getting to his spots, right? They ran that triangle. He got the ball in about the same place every time. And he had a couple moves that just made it easy for him to score.
Yeah. I mean,
and he was faster and stronger than everybody, but
I mean, he was not connecting game 1. Game 2, he was a little better, and especially just his 3-point presence made it at least a little more sustainable. But the problem was you didn't have Al Horford going nuclear because Al Horford after night 1, Al Horford was Finals MVP. You know, like he was. It's insane to say, but after game 1,
they have a video of Jaylen Brown going over to him and be like, "Al, we need you right now." Now Horford was like, "I got you," and Al Horford popped off. So.
Right.
It's going to be a team effort, obviously.
But then you go into game 2, Al Horford has 2 points. And like, you can't have it really is not sustainable when you're starting. This isn't game 2. This is the scoring totals for your starting 5. Tatum had 28, but he was a minus 36. Jaylen Brown, 17. Every other starter, Smart, Horford, Robert Williams, 2 points.
All had 2.
2 points each. That's horrible. You cannot have that from your starting 5 in an NBA Finals. You can't. Maybe Time Lord can have 2, but everyone else has to be over 10 points. Yeah. You have to get into double figures.
I think Marcus Smart needs to have double-digit scoring every night, whether that's him scoring 10 or him scoring 30. He needs to have double-digit scoring. Both Tatum and Brown need to give you 20 to 30. They both have to have a 25-point game, and it both has to be on decent efficiency. It would be if Tatum scores 25 points on 30 shots, not going to happen for you. But if Tatum scores 25 points on 18 shots, it's going to happen for you.
Yeah.
And if Brown does the same thing, that's great too. Al Horford or Grant Williams, one or the other, needs to have a good game. And that good game doesn't necessarily mean they score a whole bunch. It just might mean they play great defense. They rebound the ball. They, they seem to make the right passes at the right time. One of them has to have a good game. And also Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, one of them also has to have a good game, whether that's shooting the ball or playing defense or, so I think that's where it comes down to. You need role players to step up behind Tatum and Brown, giving you reliable minutes.
And that's the thing. Like, we've seen it all playoffs. Those role players in the Celtics have stepped up. Now in the finals, though, it's like you got the game at Al Horford and you won one. But like Tatum, you cannot have two bad games back to back like that. You absolutely can't. Like, you're the leader of this team. You're the engine. You got to give more than that. You have to.
You have to expect they come out strong game 3
at home.
Right, you got to expect it, and it does start. And like you said, it does start with Tatum, especially if he's going to get cocky and wear all these Kobe and Jordan shirts and whatnot. Right, like you need to see Tatum really bring it. It doesn't matter what he says to his teammates or how he motivates them. It's he himself just needs to lock in and have, like, in the first quarter or the second quarter, just go like 8 for 8 from the field or something, or draw 5 fouls, or
It's
someone
tough
has to force Draymond to get ejected, like something like that,
It's tough, though, because when he's off like that, it makes it impossible for the supporting cast to do well. Jaylen Brown's doing everything he can out there, and he's actually had a pretty good finals so far. Like, I know he only had 17 points in the second game, but like, it was a good 17. He really did not play poorly. And he was the only one, like, I felt like, who really had that heart and intensity and was like trying to attack the rim and get shots up and whatever. Whereas everyone else, I felt like, was just kind of flustered by the Warriors, which, yes, they can do that. And a lot of that is Draymond Green, which I do want to talk about. But I just think when Tatum is off, it's so much easier for other teams to sag off him and to concentrate on Brown, concentrate on other guys, which is why everyone else had a worse night. And so I think the Warriors were able to scheme for that after seeing what happened in game 1, where they're like, all right, he was off, so then we can do this. When they noticed he was off game 2, all right, we have the script. We know what to do now. And so Tatum needs to get going early to prevent that. And then you can start having Grant Williams put up 6 to 8 points or whatever it is. Like, you can have him start hitting a couple threes, whatever it might be. I don't know. I just think they clearly need a change. And I
think they need a ball handler, right? If you look at their starting lineup, Tatum, Brown, Smart, all of them can play make, but none of them are playmakers.
That's why you're seeing what's his name getting a ton of time, Derek White. I mean, Derek White's playing 30 minutes a game off the bench pretty much.
Even then, more of a combo guard than a point guard.
Sure.
Right. So like, I'm not like, here, Derek White, have the keys to my offense to make it all run. He's not like a Ricky Rubio or Steve Nash, or he's not moving the ball for other guys to create space. And I think that's their problem, right? A lot of their offense is surrounded by Robert Williams controlling the space above the rim. And then it's just drives and kickouts. And even then, sometimes they get a ISO Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
And the Warriors know he's going to have a hard time dribbling. So now they're getting digs. And that's why the Miami Heat series, those games that Miami won, it was like Miami Heat caused like 17 turnovers and Jaylen Brown had like 11 of them, right? Like,
right.
And because they know, like, as soon as he puts the ball down on the floor, they're coming for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's so difficult.
It is. It's very difficult. I think you're right, though. I think they will come back and answer in game 3, the Celtics. But I don't know. I'm based on what I've seen so far, barring like an Al Horford nuclear night where he goes off like that, I don't know how you beat this Warriors team. They've just felt so much in control these first 2 games that I don't know what change you have to make other than like, all right, we just got to get hot. And maybe Michael's right. Maybe it's like we just got to hit our threes, and that's what it looks like when everyone's shooting 50%, and we got to get lucky. But I don't know. I really think the Warriors are going to end up running away with this.
The recipe from the Warriors has been Curry obviously doing Curry things. I think in both games, Curry has been great.
Yeah, definitely.
There are times when I'm like, okay, Curry's being guarded by this guy. He shouldn't be able to get easy shots. And then like wide open three or a layup or it just he seems to be unstoppable. And then they have guys off the bench who are playing well. Let's say like Klay Thompson's not playing well that night. Well, then they just throw in Jordan Poole, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe Klay Thompson's having an off night and Wiggins has 25, right? So they have a lot of guys behind Curry. I think Curry is the only star on this team. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins was an all-star, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a star. I think he just played well. So, you know, they're so.
Can we talk Draymond Green? Can we talk Draymond Green now?
Yeah, I mean,
because we were texting this yesterday and we were not agreeing on it. Look, I think it's ridiculous. I think he is reckless. Sure, he wants to go in there and like start shit with the Celtics, and that's fine. You can do that. He got an early technical, but then the problem is, and Steve Javie comes on the game and admits it. NBA refs, when they know a guy has a technical, like they treat him differently. They're not going to give him another T when they would normally give a technical foul because they know he gets ejected. So then they're overthinking, is this specific thing ejectionable? But the problem is when he's doing it sustained over game, like the shit he was doing to Grant Williams, it's just like he's just throwing his body at guys. Like it is dangerous. It's reckless. And it's not like enforcing. He's just tall Pat Beverly. He's like, I think it's bad for.
He is enforcing.
Pat Beverly, but he should get ejected. He should have gotten another technical foul last night for the sustained garbage that he was doing. He should have.
100%. And you know, when you look at the rest of the Warriors roster, nobody else is bringing intensity. Andrew Wiggins is not an intense person. Steph Curry is not an intense person. Klay Thompson, I guess, could be an intense person, but he's not like aggressive in any way. Just like he gets hot, he shoots threes, they go in. Like when you really think about guys who are going to bring like strong, impactful defensive intensity, you think about Gary Payton, who's coming off a broken bone. So it's not like he's going to be super excited to get super physical. So it comes from Draymond and he was roughing up everybody. It wasn't just Grant Williams he was roughing up.
That's
every
almost
time he got
worse.
matched up on Tatum or Brown, they were talking, and Draymond's in their head. Draymond knows, right?
But that's the thing. He should get ejected for it. He should get ejected for it.
I think this is,
and you know who
he did the same thing to LeBron, and LeBron got him ejected. You know why? Because LeBron James is the king.
No, but
that's
also
the only reason why Draymond got ejected.
But here's the thing: go back a few years. He was kicking everyone in the nuts. He punched LeBron in the nuts. Finally, he got suspended a game. Now the Warriors don't let anyone. They're like, "Oh, you got ejected." That's why they came back 3-1. No, They got ejected because they lost because he's an asshole and wasn't thinking about his team. That's what it was. Like he's being.
He is thinking about his team. We all want to say Draymond is reckless. Draymond is a terrible guy. Blah blah blah. Blah. That's part of the role.
But then he should get ejected. Part of the role is I'm going to be a dick, but then I'm going to get thrown out. And good luck after that. Be fired up. But you know what? Like the NBA just being like, oh yeah, that's Draymond being Draymond, whatever. F that. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, he gets preferential treatment because he's known to be a dick. No.
Pat Bev got a 3-year, $40 million contract literally for being an aggravator.
Right, but he doesn't get the same treatment that Draymond gets. He gets ejected way more frequently.
Because he's not a champion. He's not an all-star.
But that's absurd. He shouldn't get preferential treatment because he's Draymond.
Should LeBron get preferential treatment because he's LeBron?
But he's not being a dick. There's a very different thing. But there's a very different thing between getting the benefit of the doubt on a foul call when you're LeBron James and he's like, I've been here 8 trillion times. That was a foul. Versus like throwing your body weight on Grant Williams and tackling him. Like there's a huge difference. Difference. Draymond
got the tech for throwing his body weight on.
I know, but then it continues after that is my point. Like it's all that same garbage. He fouled
Tatum on a 3-point shot and they were like, is that a technical? Or are we throwing Draymond out? And it wasn't like he did anything incredibly dirty. It wasn't like he zaza'd Tatum, you know? He jumped into his space and fouled him. It's a foul. Is it aggressive? 100%. Do I like playing with people like that? 100% not. If Draymond came out to my court and was acting like that, I'd be upset. I'd be like, dude, you got to chill out. But I'm not playing in the NBA Finals, right?
But that's even worse. It's the NBA Finals, and he's being like this. Like, this should not be a platform where you're okaying that. It isn't okay. It isn't okay.
didn't
You just said it. It's not okay on the court you play on. Why would it be okay in the NBA Finals? It's not okay.
It's a different level.
Oh my God.
When
we
I
should
go
be holding a
outside to play
higher
pickup-
standard to the NBA Finals. Yes, we
When I
have
go
the
outside-
cursive logo. We're fancy. None of this
when I
garbage.
go outside to play pickup basketball, I don't fight for rebounds. Like if someone has me boxed out or like the rebound's a little too far away, I just let it go. I'm not, if there's someone who has interior position on me and they're going up for a layup, I'm not going to foul them. And that's because I'm playing pickup. We're just out there having fun, having a good time. Then I play in a league every Thursday. If there's a guy who has inside position on me and we're up by 6, I'm fouling the shit out of him. I don't want him taking that layup. That's the difference between playing pickup and playing in a league game for me. Now imagine if I was playing in the NBA and it was, game 10 of the regular season, I'd be like, fuck it, whatever. We can lose a game 10. It's after the All-Star break. Now I'm playing a little harder. Now I'm in the first round of the playoffs. I'm playing a little harder. I'm in the NBA Finals. I'm putting everything out there.
There's a huge difference between playing hard and playing truly with reckless abandon.
I think, okay, here's where I draw the line. Draymond shot 7 free throws last night. There were times when he would run into people like he was playing football, and the rest would be like, whistle, foul, Draymond, go to the free throw line.
But again, that's
I'm
my
not
point.
okay with that. I'm okay with him being a little rough on defense. I'm not going to call 2 techs on him for playing aggressive defense, but I'm not going to be sending him to the free throw line every time I feel there's some type of contact. And if Draymond wants to complain about, driving hard and missing a layup or something like that, fine. Complain about it. I'm not going to give you a technical foul for it. You want that call? You're not going to get it. And if you're going to sit down here and complain to me, your team is on a 4-on-5 downside fast break. Celtics get a bucket, right? Like that's just the way I'm calling it in the finals. I think it was me who sent a tweet where I saw a tweet. It was the rest are just letting them play, which I think is great. I think they should let them play. And I'm sure Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA head office has been saying to these refs, let them play.
But that's fine. That's fine until there's like an actual injury that comes out of this. Because let's face it,
you should stop it.
But that's the thing. Like he's not going to stop because they've okayed it.
I don't think he's played to the point where he's going to injure somebody yet.
But that's the thing. It's not like one of those things where it's like yet. It just happens. He throws his body at someone, and suddenly someone has like a sprained ankle or he misses 3 games. But it's that. It happens like in an absolute blink of an eye, where it's all of these reckless plays. Like one of them is going to lead to something, and I just think there's no place for it right now. And like the refs tolerating it, and like Steve Jaffe coming in and being like, yeah, well, like is this worth throwing him out? Like if it's worth another technical foul, yes, by definition, yes, get him out of the game. That is the thing. Set the tone. We're not taking any of your crap. That's how I would react as a ref. Like, no, you can't just break the rules because, you've been here before and everyone knows you as this whatever. Like, no. If anything, that makes it worse. You're like, you haven't gotten the message yet. You're still doing this garbage. Like, no, out of here. That's how I feel.
But even in the other NBA finals that the Warriors won, it was Draymond being physical with LeBron every play. He got ejected because he was physical with LeBron. And
he got ejected because he punched LeBron in the nuts after kicking 3 people in the nuts in that entire playoffs. He should have gotten thrown out in the Thunder series for kicking Steven Adams twice.
Yeah, but that's Steven Adams.
It doesn't matter, Luke. He kicked Steven Adams very much intentionally right in the groin. He should have been kicked out. Like, he should have missed the game then. And that Thunder team blew a 3-1 lead to that Warriors team that blew a 3-1 lead. Like, there are so many reasons that I think it's effed up that they just give him the benefit of the doubt.
They blew that 3-1 lead because Curry and Thompson were electric those last couple games. So I gotta be wrong. Draymond definitely had an impact, but Draymond being ejected for 1 game probably wouldn't have changed that series.
Fine. Be that as it may, it still should have happened earlier. Like, I feel like he just has such a long leash because it's like, he's a bulldog. Blah. No. Like,
if you ask Draymond,
he's going to injure us. All right. How about this? He keeps his crap up in game 3. Jason Tatum gets hurt. What is everyone going to say after that? Because I assure you, someone is going to get injured with the way Draymond's playing. If it keeps up, someone's getting hurt.
Yeah. Hey, I mean,
it's the NBA's fault at that point. It's the NBA's fault.
It is. 100% is. And if that happens, it happens. I think if Tatum got hurt, I'd be less upset than if like Curry got hurt. because I think the Warriors are going to win the series. If Tatum gets hurt, I'm like, okay, the series ended in 5 instead of 6 or 7.
But if it's like Draymond being a dick and injuring their best player, like, no.
Suspend him for a game.
Oh, suspend him for a game. Oh, no, he's still going to get his ring. They won the finals because he injured someone integral. Like,
if Tatum
it's messed up.
If Tatum tears his ACL because of Draymond, there will be a harsh penalty. But if Tatum rolls his ankle and can't play 2 games because of Draymond, I suspend Draymond for a game.
But yeah, my point is it shouldn't take this. He should have gotten thrown out of the last game. They should have nipped it in the bud, and they should prevent it. But I'm telling you, something bad is going to happen with the way he's playing. It just
see what happens game 3. Do we know the game 3 officials?
I don't. I haven't looked. When is game 3? Is game 3
Wednesday?
Wednesday? All right, cool.
Did
they release the officials yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's calling it, but I hope we get Mike Breen back, if anything. If anything,
I think it's Mark Jackson. The rest of the.
I'm not seeing anything about the officials yet. So it looks like they haven't named them.
Yeah, I don't think they named them yet.
Yeah,
they'll name them a couple days before the. But I mean, Scott Foster is.
Wow, this is super interesting. I'm on ESPN right now, and I'm looking at their like basketball power index. They're giving the Celtics an 80.6% chance of winning the next game. That feels like cartoonishly high.
BPI gave them an 86% chance to win the whole series.
Right, but the series is a little different. I mean, that is definitely still high.
If Tatum comes out and plays great basketball for 3 games straight,
we have no reason to think he will.
If he has 35, 7, and 7 for 3 games straight, did the Celtics win this series?
Probably.
There you go.
But when has he done that?
It's on Tatum.
He hasn't done that. Even in the other series, we've seen him. You have been defending him so vehemently this whole playoffs, where I keep saying like he disappears when they need him.
But part of taking that step is him not disappearing. And if he comes out and plays great, we'll be like, Jason Tatum took a step.
But he hasn't. You're 2 games into the NBA Finals. You're 2 games into the NBA Finals, and you played like garbage both times. Come on.
Maybe he's just getting adjusted. It's the first time he's ever been to the finals. He's a young man. He's younger than me.
But we're not saying that about Jaylen Brown. We're not saying that about anyone else on that team.
Jaylen Brown has done his part.
But Peyton Pritchard looks like he's like himself.
Jason Tatum is 1 year younger than me. And he has the hopes and prayers
of a
violent fan base on his shoulders. You know?
Yeah, it's a big pressure. And I understand that.
The whole fan base of the Boston Celtics, which is like millions of people, are counting on him. He gets paid millions of dollars to let him know that people are counting on him. His teammates are counting on him. The media, that pressure would be so insane. I'd throw up. The fact that Jason Tatum can go out there and actually put up shots in an NBA Finals game is ridiculous.
Yeah,
my confidence level is not that high. So I am 100% in on Jason Tatum. The fact that he can go out there and toss up 19 shots even when he's not really hitting them, fantastic. Game 1, he's absolutely terrible. Game 2, a little bit better. Game 3, what does Game 3 look like? Back at home, crowds cheering me on. The Garden's going to be electric. TD Garden's going to be electric. That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
so, hey,
look, yeah, I think in theory, yeah, it should be better, but I don't know that it's going to be. I don't. He's not shown me that it's going to happen.
I think he can take the step. Whether or not that step will come this year or next year or the year after is still a question mark. I hope that it's in these next couple of games because I would love to see Tatum play really great basketball. Or, I would even be happy if Jaylen Brown was like, here's 45 and 5. I'd be happy if Jaylen Brown did that. I'd be happy if I started seeing Jaylen Brown crossing guys up. I would love to see that. So, hey, someone's going to do it. I have confidence in the Celtics, but I have a feeling that the Warriors will just be too much. Curry is going to continue to put in 30-point games. Klay Thompson's going to be on and off. Some games he might have 25. Some games he might have 11.
he's another one who
So-
hasn't looked great these first two games. And again, I feel like he gets the benefit of the doubt just coming back from those injuries. And he's like, he generally has not
Coming
been
back from
himself
those
lately.
injuries,
But he also just
came back
generally,
late.
right. He hasn't looked like himself this whole season. He's shown flashes like game 6, Clay showed up.
100%.
But, like, beyond that. So like, yeah, fine. We're giving him
I think there's a difference.
There
I
definitely
think we
is.
need to think about the mental aspect of it. I think Clay comes back in the regular season, doesn't really look like himself. We're like, he's just warming up. Right then, he starts to get into a groove. He starts to look better. He's been solid through the playoffs. Here we are back in the finals. I'm sure it's going through his head. Last time I was here, I remember what happened, right?
Mhm.
It's probably in the back of his head. I go up for a jump shot. I go up for a layup. He's probably thinking about it. So
I mean, yeah.
I just think he needs to find the comfort level. And I think it's even harder because he knows what happened last time he was here. And the fact that it happened so quickly, right? He comes back and then the Warriors are immediately back into the
Mhm.
finals. I'm sure it's not a comfortable feeling for him.
Yeah, definitely. I do think though, like even in their win and the Warriors were in control, like he's 4-19 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3, and he only got to the free throw line twice. So
It's good to see that he's still confident in himself though, and he's continued to put up shots even when they don't fall.
I'll give him that, absolutely. But I think the Warriors are going to need a bigger version of Clay. Let's say the Celtics do turn it around. They're going to need a much bigger version of Clay to win the series. Because it can't all just fall on Steph. It can't. And like you're asking Jordan Poole to do too much. Jordan Poole's good, but he's not that good. So it is. It's Clay. The same way we're saying Tatum needs to step up, and it starts with him. If Tatum does start to play better, then it's on Clay next for like 100%.
Okay, Clay took 5 shots in the fourth quarter. I want to know how many of those were in garbage time. How many of those were taken when the Warriors were up by 15?
Yeah, I don't have any of those stats on me handy, so I'm not sure.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that he took bad shots. They just didn't fall for him that game. Took 5 shots in the first quarter. He missed 4. Missed all 3 shots he took in the second. He missed 4 out of his 6 in the third. He hit 1 in the fourth. So I think it just might be him trying to find a comfort level. And I don't think his shot selection is bad. It just might have been that they weren't falling that game.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
If I'm Steve Kerr, I'm happy with the way he played. Especially, we still won the game. We won it pretty handily. I just need Klay Thompson to find a rhythm, and it's just going to make my job so much easier if I'm Steve Kerr. So,
yeah. No, I mean, I think we're aligned here. Now that I feel like we have summarized what's happened in the first 2 games, what do you think? What do you think we're about to get? I'm going to start with game 3. Who do you think wins game 3? And then on top of that, who do you think wins the series?
I think the Warriors come out and win a close win in game 3.
Wow, interesting. I actually think the Celtics are in game 3.
It's a 108-102 Warriors win.
Here's my thought. If I now, and I know it's much easier said than done, but if I'm the Celtics, my plan is, look, I think both games, Steph Curry has been the only reason they have been in the driver's seat. If we can just step on Clay a little bit, which they did in the second half of the first game, if we can step on Steph a little bit and force someone else to beat us, I like our chances. So if I'm going to be Udoka, I'm going to go in there and be like, all right, look, we're scheming this whole thing. I don't care how many points Draymond has. I don't care, if he has whatever his weird triple doubles are. If Clay starts to go off, fine, we can adjust for Clay. But someone else has to beat us. If Kevon Looney is going to have the game where he beats us, fine. It's not going to be Steph. And so I think that's what they have to do. I think it's very clear right now. I mean, even if you look at the Warriors the box score from the Warriors last game, the only person, Steph had 29, great game. But then the next high is 17 points out of Poole, 12 out of Looney, 11 out of Wiggins. Like, all right, make someone else crack the 20s. I'm keeping Steph. I'm keeping Steph under 20 points is my goal.
I don't know if Poole necessarily had a bad game, or Poole didn't break 20 because he had a bad game, but I think it was more just the time he was on the court.
Only played 23 minutes. I know that happened, but still, I'm forcing someone else to take over. I'm not letting Steph go for 30 plus or whatever it is. Someone else has to do this. Someone else has to win you the game. And yeah, obviously it is. I think the other things we mentioned, it's on Tatum to step up. But assuming that happens, that's where I think they have to watch
some. I think they have to watch some 2016 Cavs film and kind of see how they treated some of the guys. And obviously, like Andrew Wiggins wasn't on the team, and
Right.
some of the role players are different. But Draymond should be guarded the same exact way the Cavs guarded him. And I was like, we're just going to let Draymond shoot. I'd rather have
him do
Draymond
whatever
shoot
he
that three
wants.
than right. And then Robert Williams there to clean up anything. If Draymond wants to drive, Robert Williams is going to.
I would give Draymond the Ben Simmons treatment. I want whoever's guarding him in the middle of the paint.
Sure. Yeah.
There's literally no reason to guard him. He cannot shoot the basketball.
And you should try and draw charges. At some point, the refs have to stop giving Draymond these calls.
Yeah, exactly.
People.
That's exactly how I feel. So that's why I think the Celtics are going to adjust to that. And I think they win game 3. I do think the Warriors still win the series, but I would be surprised. I would not be surprised if the Celtics, whatever formula they figure out here, if it worked and they were able to just go on and win.
I think Warriors will win game 3 in a close one. Celtics will win game 4. They go back to the Bay Area. Celtics are feeling good. They want to win another game. Game 5's big. I think the Celtics are going to win game 5.
Yeah.
And then Warriors. Warriors will game 6 Clay or, Steph Curry will have 45 or something like that in game 6. And then game 7 back in the Bay, tied 3-3.
Yeah, if it gets to a game Curry. 7, it's the Warriors. I'd be genuinely floored if the Celtics won it in 7. So it's got to be the Celtics in 6 or else that's it.
It's over. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. So Luke, we have been on here now for about an hour. So I feel like we talked about it. Rather than keep going with our listeners, I will I'll set them free right now. Barring unless you had anything else to add about the finals, I feel like we need a couple more games before we can really dive in a little bit more. But so far, I liked what we've seen. It's been a fun series. I'm glad it's 1-1, even though the games haven't been like tremendously competitive. They obviously have had their pros and cons, but I'm hoping that we start to see as teams make adjustments, kind of like we saw in the other series, that games are a little closer and a little more fun. And I think it starts with game 3. I think we're going to see like I mentioned, we're going to see some adjustments from the Celtics. It's going to feel a little more balanced than it has in the past. Fingers crossed. So
we'll see it. I think the last thing I want to add is that ESPN came out with a new mock draft a couple of days ago, and they had the Knicks selecting AJ Griffin 11th overall, I think.
Look, I'm fine with it. He's a good shooter. He has defensive potential, but
people say he's a good shooter. I remember watching him at Duke. He's like a really slow, really forced.
Yeah, but he shot.
It feels awkward to me.
45% from 3.
Yeah, so Lonzo Ball shot, I don't know, 40% from 3 in college too, and then he came out into the NBA and shot like 27%.
That's true. But we're not going to ask him to do the same things anyone asked Lonzo Ball to do. So if that does happen, fine. I'm salivating. I still think that number 4 pick is going to happen. I think they're trading up to 4. I think Ivy. It sounds like he has a ton of fans inside the organization. The Kings are looking to trade that pick. I think it could happen.
I think he's signed to CAA, so obviously tied there to the Knicks.
You never know.
Would love to see Randall. Would love to see Randall gone. Would love to see Obi start because I want to see some like breakaway windmills. I want some Obi time.
In starting minutes, he showed he's really capable of doing that. He's capable of being a high-level scorer, a 3-level scorer. His 3-point percentage was good when he started and played big minutes. Mm-hmm. It's when he's coming off the bench, he's cold, he's getting like 10 minutes a game that, he's not shooting well. Who the hell would shoot well playing that few minutes? Not many guys. Sure. So, I don't know. I think he needs to run more. I think Tibbs is a disaster, but that's beyond the point. At this point, I'm like the Simpsons meme, old man yells at cloud. It is just what it feels like at this point. I'm just screaming about nothing because Tibbs is here to stay. So,
yeah, someone brought up the 2012 Knicks, I think it was 2012-13 with Melo and Amari, where Amari only played like 30 games that year.
Yeah,
but they were like the 30 games he played were like super electric.
Right.
And you had the 2 seed in the East. I was thinking about that team the other day, and kind of similar to what continues to happen. It's just it was a more successful, we're bringing in vets, and right, they were bringing in Melo instead of Julius Randle.
Melo is a much better leader than Julius Randle was. He was a much better scorer. He just everything about that year. He won the scoring title that year. Like he was
Yeah, we need
unbelievable.
someone like that to come out of New Jersey, New York again.
I mean, yeah, I think everyone saw how Randall was received last season when he was playing well. I think it would be, I'm kind of surprised more players aren't like, all right, I want to go be a legend in New York. Because you would be. If you came in, like, even the way, like, everyone in New York thinks about Carmelo Anthony, like, he's beloved here. He is. And just because he tried, it's just because he tried to win here. Imagine if you actually did. So that's the one thing that I hold on hope for, but I know it's not happening this offseason. So for now, trade it, try and get Ivy and figure it out later. But
I really don't. I don't think Ivy's a good fit.
How dare you?
But
how dare you? I want
they
him.
say he's Westbrook with a jump shot. I'm like, no, he's just Westbrook.
No, he's like Ja. And if you can develop his jumper,
Ja was such an elite decision maker. Ivy just runs down the court as fast as he can and then chucks the ball somewhere.
I'm cool with that. Screw it.
He's like, I think I have a layup here, or he's like, I don't have a layup here, and then he just chucks it and it's a turnover.
I'm very fine with that on my team. I'll gladly take it.
That's okay.
Yeah. But all righty, Luke. So for those tuning in, thank you for joining us. This is the Hoop Troop podcast, and join us next time.